Good morning, guys. Today I want to talk to you about how to actually pull the data for your scorecard. I've gotten some questions about how we get from HMIS to Sage to a readable report. So I want to talk to you today about how to do that. First thing you'll do in HMIS is you'll go to your HMIS exports and you'll want to run the CSV APR 2017. The HMIS team has already made a video on how to do this, but I'm going to show you quickly how I do it. It seems to work well for most of the tasks that I attempt. Make sure that you're using the correct date range for the quarterly performance scorecard. The correct date range for the first quarterly performance scorecard is April 1st, 2017 through March 31st, 2018. Your organization will already be set. You don't need to worry about grant component or grant program. You will, however, want to select program type and then select your component type. So if you're permanent supportive housing, you would select permanent supportive housing. If you're rapid rehousing, you would select rapid rehousing. In this example, I'm using the data from Odessa Links, which is a rapid rehousing project in, as you might have guessed, Odessa. So we'll select Odessa Links info. We'll click Run Export. Now, this is where people get tripped up. I typically will not encrypt the export. The reality of it is that you are responsible for this data, whether it's encrypted or not. If it's going to a local storage area, like on your hard drive of your laptop, your password protected laptop should be sufficient. So I'll go ahead and click that I assume the full responsibility and click Done. That will add this export to the queue. And it generally takes about an hour to an hour and a half, in my experience, to get these reports done and back. So if you need to leave and come back, that's understandable. Mine obviously has other reports that have been run in the last couple of days. But if you need to come back to this later, when you come back to you log back into HMIS, you are looking for that report, you'll click on Files on Server, and you'll see when it's done that you will have one that matches your the date and time that you ran the report. So for this example, I'm not actually going to use Odessa Links information. I'm going to use the information from another project, but you'll want to go ahead and download that CSV-APR 2017 export followed by a series of numbers. If you download anything else like this populate staging tables or any other report zip file from HMIS, you will encounter problems in Sage. But since I know that this file will work, I'm going to go ahead and download that now. So the next step will be to actually come to Sage and test this report. So when you get to the Sage login page, which is sagehmis.info, rather than logging into the system, you'll come over to Test Run Report. When you click on the Test Run Report link, you'll get the option to select a report that you wish to test. So we're going to test the CSV APR 2017. Pretty straightforward so far. You'll see that you get some instructions here about how to do that, but the bottom line is you need to choose the file that you want to test. So on most computers, the way that they're set up, whenever you download a file from HMIS or really anywhere else on the internet, they'll come to your downloads folder. And what that means is you'll need to search your downloads folder for the file that you want to test in Sage. To make that easier, because if you have it sorted by name, you'll see that things just are really kind of wacky and they don't make a ton of sense about how to find the file that you're really looking for. So I typically do it by the date that the file was modified, and that'll bring up the most recent thing that I downloaded. So I'll click on this CSV APR 2017 and I'll click open. And then it'll ask me to verify that I'm not a robot. So I'll do that. I'll say upload and test. And then you'll see that it gives me the project identifiers. So this is actually the APR data from another project, but it'll give me the project identifiers for that particular project. And I'll just want to kind of confirm that that's what I was expecting. Yeah, that looks all right. Yeah, that sounds about right. So then I'll scroll all the way down on this page and it says the results. This upload has passed all validations. Review the project identifiers and click report, create report. So I'm going to do that now. When I click create report, it's going to take about 2 minutes to assemble all this data. Now what it's doing basically is, if you've ever unzipped the file that you download from HMIS, you'll see that there's about 60 or so individual Excel files that don't make a ton of sense by themselves. So what the system is doing right now is kind of sorting all of those and making them fit together to create the APR. It does take a couple of minutes sometimes, but it looks like we're pretty much there. So you have one more step, so you'll need to scroll all the way down to the bottom of this page and then click View this report. This part also takes a couple minutes. Why? I'm not too sure. It just kind of does. But once you've gotten through there, you'll see that you're actually in your APR now. So this project has 0% error rate for all of the universal data elements. That's great. We're looking at those. Anyway, so then what we'll do, right, is we'll want to go ahead and save this file. And in fact, the easiest way that I've found to save your APRs is to right-click, print, and then rather than sending it to the printer in the copy room or the office or whatever, you'll want to set your destination as save as PDF. When you do that, it actually enables you to save this document as a PDF, much like you would any other document. So we'll go ahead and save that. And we're not going to save that to my pictures. I'm not sure why it automatically sent me there, but for this purpose, we'll just go ahead and save it to the desktop, and we'll label it so on my computer, typically once one of those APRs is saved, it'll open it up in the PDF viewer. But since it didn't do that, I'll have to go in here and find it, and we'll say desktop. Giving up save scorecard. So now we've got the local version of your APR. This is what you want. This is what you will submit with your scorecard when you have completed the scorecard. So let's take a look at the actual scorecard and talk about how to complete that. So I've got the scorecard up. You'll see that I'm on the instructions landing page. It talks about the things that you guys will need to create this scorecard. But since we already kind of know, we'll just jump right in. To get started, obviously for this project, let's just start at the top, data completeness. So review the data in the percentage of error rate column question 06A and 06B. We'll go back to this APR and we'll look for, okay, so here's 05A, here's 06A, and here is 06B. So 06A, percentage of error rate. This project has all zeros for percentage of error rate. So going back to the scorecard, we can say that this project has 0%. You'll actually want to fill in your project score, right? Because this is how the system calculates it. It's not good enough to just put that you have 0% missing data here. You'll need to actually score yourself based on that missing data. So for this particular metric, less than 2% missing data equals 5 points. So this project would score themselves 5 points for this particular metric. And then you would move on. So the next thing that you would want to look at is the timely submission of universal data quality reports. If you are a DV provider, obviously this does not apply to you, but this is something that you would have. This is not something that's going to be in the APR. This is something that would be either you would have email record of or some other confirmation from the HMIS team, you would score yourself appropriately there. The other thing that we're looking at in terms of HMIS data quality, and again, pretty much everything that you guys will be looking at is going to be coming from the Sage APR. You can see that just about everything else in the HMIS section actually comes from the Sage APR upload. The other report that you guys will need to run in HMIS is the actual system performance measures. So when you come to your dashboard, you'll go to HMIS reports, the same place that you would run, the CSV export, but rather than going to that tab, you'll scroll down to system performance measures. You'll come over to system performance measures M2 through M7. You'll click on that. You'll want to make sure that the date range for your system performance measures report matches the date range for your APR. So that's April 1st, 2017 through March 31st, 2018. You'll also want to ensure that you have only your project selected under programs when you filter by program. This report is designed to be run at the CoC level, so it is possible to select more than just the programs from your organization. You don't need to select anything for state filter or CoC, and you'll run the report. So once you have run the report in HMIS, the system performance measure report will pop up and it'll look like this. You'll want to export this to a PDF. So click on export. Bada boom, bada bing. Now you have a local version that is in your downloads folder titled HMIS_6_1_system_performance_measures2. You might want to rename that depending on how many of these reports you're running. But this is what you would submit with your scorecard and what you'll use to complete some of the metrics depending on your project type and target population. So for permanent supportive housing, you're actually going to use this report for metric 2.2, returns to homelessness. And returns to homelessness looks at the percentage of persons returning to homelessness within 6 to 12 months of exiting the permanent housing. So we will go back to this report and look to see measure 2A and 2B, exits from permanent housing. Number returning to homelessness in less than 6 months is 0, so you have a 0% return there. Number returning from 6 to 12 months, 0% there. In fact, it looks like the total exits for this project for the time period given, there have been no returns to homelessness. So great job giving hope. Going back to the scorecard, you will select the appropriate percentage. In this case, it is 0%. We'll tab over to the scoring column. We will fill in the number and we'll move on with life. Now, if you don't have any means of collecting this data, meaning that you're a DB provider and you input data into Osnium, you should be the only provider type selecting NA for this performance measure. And what happens when you select NA is it will automatically reduce this metric to 0, thereby reducing the total possible score for your project. And it essentially just weights the score for the DB provider based on what they're able to provide. And the same for any other provider, really. For example, if your project has been in operation for less than a year, you will not have any data for income growth for stayers. So in that scenario, you would also select NA. It'll reduce that metric to 0 and reduce the overall score that's possible. What we're going to do is once we get the total score for your project, what we'll do is we'll take your total score and divide it against the maximum points that you could possibly get to create a percentage score. And that's what we'll use to kind of assess where a project is at. The other thing that projects need to be aware of with the performance scorecard are these yellow boxes towards the top of the scorecard. If your project has been in operation for less than 1 full operating year, you would select the number of full quarters that your project has been in operation. For example, if your project started May 1st, 2017, your project has only been in operation for 3 full quarters. Now, May 1st, 2018, you would say that your project has been in operation for 4 full quarters. However, currently, right now, your project has been in operation for 3 full quarters. So it's really important that projects make the correct selection in this box, because this is a dependent box for some of the formulas and the performance calculations. If you select incorrectly, it will impact the way that your data displays and the score that your project receives. The other thing that projects will need to do is they will need to go into their 2016 CoC project application, look at section 2B, 2A, and enter the total number of households that were identified in the project application to be served. The way the project application is worded is that is intended to be a point in time count. And we're using this for bed utilization tied with your the number of quarters that your project has been in operation to create a weighted bed utilization formula. So it's important that you guys enter this number correctly as well. I think that's all I have for you guys right now. If you have any questions, please reach out to THN, either myself, Jim at thn.org. Thanks, guys.